Every U.S. state and the one Canadian province that used to be independent explained in order of how long they remained independent. The Republic of California, 1846. The Republic of California was the shortest-lived independent U.S. state. Before the Mexican-American War that took place from 1846 to 1848, much of what is today the western United States belonged to Mexico. This area was very neglected by the Mexican government, and most citizens in what is today California desperately wanted annexation from the United States. Led by American military captain John C. Fremont, on June 14, 1846, the California Republic was declared independent. This was 1 month after the Mexican-American War had broken out, but the people of California had not yet gotten word of this. The California Republic claimed almost all of today's California, Nevada, Utah, and Arizona, but only controlled the area of what is today the San Francisco metropolitan area. The Bear Republic, as it was often called, lasted for a whopping 25 days before the United States rode in and occupied the territory with no resistance. In 1850, California officially became the 31st state. The Republic of West Florida, 1810. The area that is now eastern Louisiana had been a source of controversy for decades in the early 19th century. French/American-controlled Louisiana and Spanish-controlled Florida could not agree on where to draw the border between Louisiana and Florida. Keep in mind, at this point, the land that is now southern Alabama and Mississippi was a part of Spanish Florida. In 1810, the controversy and competing claims became too much, and pro-independence forces stormed Baton Rouge, took the city, and declared independence. American President James Madison had wanted that land for years, and finally an opportunity for him to take it arose. He invaded and claimed the land for the United States. The Republic of West Florida lasted approximately 4 months before the U.S. took control. The Republic of the Rio Grande, 1840. I debated including the Republic of the Rio Grande just because it hardly owned any American territory. It was made up of the Mexican states of Coahuila, Nuevo León, and Tamaulipas. It held a small part of what is today Texas and at the time the independent Republic of Texas. The Republic of the Rio Grande was proclaimed independent in 1840, but remained unrecognized by all countries and struggled with multiple border disputes with the Republic of Texas. The country dissolved just 10 months after declaring independence, with most of the land returning to Mexico and just a small portion being annexed by the Republic of Texas. The State of Deseret, 1849 to 1850. The State of Deseret was slightly different from the rest of these states. In 1849, the head of the LDS Mormon Church requested that the Mormons receive a state for themselves. After the Mormon War of 1838, all Mormons were expelled from Missouri, and they wanted a state free from persecution. The LDS president, Brigham Young, sent a petition to Washington, D.C., requesting all of today's Utah, Arizona, and Nevada, as well as parts of Oregon, California, New Mexico, Colorado, and Wyoming, and began sending Mormon settlers to this area. Brigham Young purposely chose the least valuable lands in hopes that this would help his cause and sent his petition off to D.C. Zachary Taylor originally wanted to group California and the state of Deseret into one state in order to not anger the South, because admitting two anti-slavery states would be very controversial. In the end, as settlers headed west and large groups of Christian settlers settled the area, Brigham Young retracted his petition. The Confederate States of America, 1861 to 1865. The Confederate States of America is perhaps the most famous American independence movement. After Abraham Lincoln was elected, South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas seceded to form the Confederate States of America. Lincoln and the Union immediately waged war to preserve the Union, and a 4-year civil war ensued. Jefferson Davis was the president of the Confederate States of America, and the Confederates only managed to remain independent for 4 years thanks to Robert E. Lee's brilliant military tactics, which kept the South in the war. Originally, it looked as if the Confederates may win the war and become fully independent, but as time wore on, it became clear the Union would come out on top. All 7 states were admitted back into the Union in 1865. The Provisional Government of Oregon, 1843 to 1849. The Provisional Government of Oregon was essentially an interim government for the entirety of Oregon and Washington, as well as parts of Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and British Columbia. A border between British Canada and the United States had not yet been established, and the American government had not taken control of the region, so a provisional government was put into place. The government created their own laws and even had their own currencies. The US dollar, Mexican peso, Peruvian real, wheat, and beaver skin were all valid currencies. In 1846, British Canada and the United States agreed upon a border, and 3 years later, the U.S. officially took control of the region as the Oregon Territory. For the most part, they kept the same laws the provisional government had made, and very little changed for the people of the Oregon Territory. The Republic of Texas, 1836 to 1846. Texas was the first independent state that managed to stay independent for a decade. Texas had historically been a part of Spain and later Mexico, but a majority of Texans considered themselves American and wanted either independence or annexation by America. Texas staged an unsuccessful revolution, which was crushed by the Mexican government in 1813. But many of the leaders of the 1813 revolution would become leaders in Texas's famous revolution of 1835. Texas managed to gain independence, and unlike most of the states on this list, received widespread recognition. Mexico did not recognize Texas, but Belgium, the United States, the Federal Republic of Central America, which is today's Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, France, the Hanseatic cities of the Holy Roman Empire, the Netherlands, and the Russian Empire all recognized Texas. The Republic of Texas also enjoyed strong economic relations with Denmark and the United Kingdom. John Tyler paved the way for the annexation of Texas, but in 1846, James K. Polk would finalize the agreement to make Texas the 28th state. This decision almost single-handedly led to the Mexican-American War. The Vermont Republic, 1777 to 1791. The Vermont Republic was the first U.S. state to achieve independence. The Vermont Republic was a part of New York during the 13 Colonies period, and Vermont was not entirely sure who to side with during the Revolutionary War. Originally, they considered union with Quebec and remaining British, but eventually decided to side with the Americans. The Vermont Republic's military, known as the Green Mountain Boys, fought alongside the Americans in the Revolutionary War, most famously in the Battle of Bennington. After the war, Vermont opted to become a state, but insisted on remaining separate from New York, New Hampshire, or Connecticut, which gave Vermont the nickname the Reluctant Republic. Vermont was eventually accepted as its own state in 1791. Vermont became the 14th state and the first state apart from the original 13 colonies. The Dominion of Newfoundland, 1907 to 1949. The Dominion of Newfoundland is the first and only Canadian province on this list. When Canada was confederated in 1867, most Newfie politicians wanted to join Canada, but the majority Protestant Newfie population did not want to join the majority Catholic Canadian Confederation. They opted to remain a British territory, and in 1907 became a Dominion of the United Kingdom. During the Great Depression, Newfoundland went totally broke and tried to join Canada, but Canada was too broke to take on a new province, so in 1934, amid financial crisis and political scandals, Newfoundland voluntarily gave away its self-governing rights and allowed Britain to take over. After World War II, Newfoundland got super rich selling equipment to the States and got super good relationship with the States off the back of it. At that point, Newfoundland was essentially deciding between joining Canada, remaining under British control, or declaring independence. But a new idea that was gaining traction was becoming a U.S. state. This terrified Canada as it would significantly reduce their access to the Atlantic Ocean. Britain and Canada teamed up and put out a referendum with the options to join Canada, gain independence, or remain British. Neither of the three options won 50% of the vote, so they removed the option to remain British and held a second referendum. This time, joining Canada won by 52% of the vote, and in 1949, Newfoundland officially became the 13th Canadian province. The Kingdom and later Republic of Hawaii, 1795 to 1898. Finally, the only U.S. state that was independent for more than a century. Hawaii became an independent nation less than 20 years after America did. The Hawaiian Islands had been inhabited by different indigenous groups for centuries, but the islands were united in 1795 by Kamehameha I. The Hawaiian Islands remained an independent, recognized monarchy up until 1893. In 1893, backed by rich American businessmen, Queen Liliuokalani was overthrown and a provisional government of Hawaii was established. The revolutionaries sought American annexation, and originally Benjamin Harrison was prepared to do that. But when Grover Cleveland took office, who was known for his anti-imperialist policies, he put a stop to the whole idea, and the Republic of Hawaii was established. When William McKinley took office, he approved the annexation after just 1 year in office, and the Republic of Hawaii officially became the Territory of Hawaii in 1900. Finally, in 1959, Hawaii became America's 50th and final state. For now.